everyone, and welcome to Sunday Live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to all those of you that are tuning in live, or maybe you're listening to this later, or maybe you're having trouble falling asleep at night and you need something to listen to, and you got startled because I jumped in with a, well, it's good to have all you here. Or maybe you're listening while you're driving or working out. I would love to know when you're not in a live and you're just listening to the broadcast. How do you like to listen? Is it while washing the dishes? Is it while mowing the yard? Do you like to sit and actually look at it? Or do you just kind of have it playing on your phone or something in the background and you listen to it while you're doing something else? And either way, any way that you're listening to it, as long as you're not looking at your screen while you're driving along the road, I'm happy and I'm fine with it. Welcome to Sunday Live. We are going to have a special episode today to address the subject of trauma and many, many questions that have been submitted in. We're going to take a look at as many as I can, and looking forward to a good week of materials that I'm going to be putting out too. And you can do me a favor, click that like button and subscribe. Please be sure to do that. We're actually getting pretty close to 100,000 subscribers, which that's pretty cool. That is awesome. So thank you so much for all those of you that have tuned in and you find this to be a helpful resource to your life and to your journey. You can also go over to markdejesus.com where you can find out more about these broadcasts. You can find out more about what I teach on and what kind of topics that I get into. There are numerous books. There's a way you can support the broadcast. You can donate to support the broadcast. And you can check out books, my latest book being The Myth of the Perfect One. This addresses the battleground of relationship OCD and working through the distortions that come up when it comes to romance and the idea of getting married and the whole journey of that. I want to be a help and support out of what I've healed through and what I've learned to work through. Of course, it's a great companion to a book that's helped so many people. And it's been an honor to be able to let this resource bless people's lives. The OCD Healing Journey is available in all different kinds of formats, available even in audio format. By the way, The Myth of the Perfect One is also available on audio. Those of you that were writing in asking about that, yes, it is available on audio. And it's great to have all of you that are here in the live chat. Those of you that will be asking questions, feel free to submit them as super chats. We'll do our best to keep an eye out on those questions that come in. I've got quite a stack here myself that I'm going to be looking through. But of course, this would not be the broadcast it needs to be without my sister from another mister. She's the love of my life, all that I cling to.
Me more than this world to me.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's not codependency talking. Melissa DeJesus is here in the house.
I'm here. Yep. Sorry, I have my art. If anyone can see, you guys can see my burn.
That is a legit burn.
I told the chat. So I was getting my tea ready, and the teapot was on the counter, and my little bags of chamomile were behind it. Well, it started to hit the boil, and I reached over, and yeah, it really is annoying.
That is quite a proper burn there.
Yeah. So at first I was like, oh, rinsed it under cold water. Didn't think it was too bad. Then I came in here and I was like, you were trying to talk to me. And I was like, I cannot even hear you. I am in so much pain. I need to go get something. So I have cold aloe vera and some ice.
I can't even hear you.
Yeah.
I have that's a pretty significant burn there. It's pretty, it's pretty
it is
red.
Actually. It's got some bubbles on it. So we might.
So you're gonna be like this. You're gonna be like this.
I'm like this. I'm just holding it out. Like, yeah. Anyway,
you need like a nice fan blowing air.
Yeah. Well, your fan over there.
Mm-hmm.
Although then, if you put the fan on, then it can get too cold.
It gets a little too chilly.
So yeah. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
We are in for our family. We're in summer schedule right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Abby's out of school. So we got 2 teenagers we're dealing with, and a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
One is we did get the deck painted, so that was great. We finally had the weather cooperating.
Hallelujah. Mm-hmm.
So that's our little sitting area that we like to hang out in, decompress from the day, as we have many things that need decompressing from while we're dealing with two teenagers and
a dog that
and yeah, I was going to say that. You want to tell everybody what Levi?
my poor Levi. Anyway, he's ever since we got him as a rescue when he was 6 months old, and he's had a couple rounds of training. He was just a very anxious dog off the jump. We almost did not hang in there with him because he did not like men. He was wanting to attack Mark every time he came in the house. Anyways, we are now 5.5 years in, and he's our baby, and we love him. However, he's a handful. He's very sensitive, all the things. Anyway, so he does not like his feet to be touched, his paws. So as a result, he does not like his nails clipped. So they go a little longer because as we were told at our vet clinic, we are one of 2 dogs that need to be sedated in order to get their nails clipped. Yeah. So we don't like to sedate him. So they try to give me some medicine for him, which it just does not work. Anyway, so his nails got a little bit too long and he's whipping around the yard, and he ripped his dew claw for the 3rd time. It's not fun, everybody. We just had the deck done too. So I look out and I'm like, I know him. I look and there's blood like everywhere.
Yeah.
It was awful. So we take him to the vet, and it was quite traumatic for me and the dog because he was like not having it. He was not having it. And they were trying to have me hold him. I'm not going to it was bad, you guys. It was really, really bad. So I said, we're calling it. Please sedate him right now. This is bad. So
there was a lot of stuff like blood.
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot, because he wouldn't let you go near him.
Yep.
I had the cone going. We were trying to give him some medicine. So anyways, this is just to tell you how sensitive he is. They knock him out. He's sedated. He is on the ground. He is like out cold. She comes back. She's like, I cannot believe this. She grabbed his paw just to get him situated, fix up the dew claw, wrap him, and get his nails cut. And he sat up and was trying to bite her while he's like sedated. He's like going. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
We love him so much, though, and he's just so cute. Anyway,
I was trying to look for the picture of him with the cone on.
With the cone,
just sitting there.
So then he wouldn't let us take the bandage off. So I had to have Mark hold him. Yep. And I used, those giant gloves that you use to if you have to get like wood out of the fire and stuff. Because I was like, what can I use in case he tries to nip at me? Yeah. And so I used that. And he was good, though. You held him pretty good.
Yeah, it was a wrestling match, though.
Surprisingly, though, with you, though, you put your hand out and said, give me your paw. And he gave you the bad paw when he was still bandaged, which I should have had you take the bandage off.
It's a miracle because he's come a long way with me.
He has. It's so awesome. Anyway, we got the bandage off and he's fine and he's running around. It was a lot, though. And then I just burned myself.
So I felt like I had a good experience I wanted to share where I posted a picture on this on Facebook, but it's a bit incomplete. But I went suit shopping with Max. We decided we want to get him some dressy clothes, and so for certain occasions or for any formal events, and so got him a nice suit, and he was trying it on last night, and we were trying different poses with him to stand.
He's so sweet. He is so sweet.
So it's a big deal.
It is. And he looks so handsome.
And when he was changing, he goes, Dad, there's a lot to this. There's a lot to this. Like there's a lot to
I think he just likes his sweats.
To go through. I said, yeah, buddy, there's a lot of prep here. When you see a guy wearing a suit, there's a lot of, but I don't know how to tie a tie on somebody else. So I have to take the tie, put it on, tie it for myself, take it off, then put it on. And but it reminded me of when I was his age. I was when I was a junior in high school, right around there. Yeah, I was an usher in church, and I would wear a suit, but I only had one suit, so that was the suit I wore.
Your same suit
every week. So my brother would rank on me if he's watching right now. He can confirm this. He would. I would be walking and passing the offering buckets, and he'd go, "Sup, same suit."
Oh goodness.
Yeah, and I had like maybe one or two ties, so I just steal my dad's ties. But I had same suit, same shirt. A lot of same shirt going on.
That's all right. We do that. It's like you've talked about when you were little, your mom had same shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. We do that.
Yeah, we would watch.
Something becomes comfortable.
We would watch slides of maybe memories or things that happened. This is slides, projector up on the wall, this old school kind of stuff. And we just noticed the pattern after a while. We're like, hey, Mom, I think you got same Sue going on. But I get that. When you get, like you said, when you get comfortable with a certain attire, you can end up wearing the heaven out of that shirt.
A little.
Yeah. So,
So
anyways, I had a had a good experience with that. But so we're going to get into trauma today. I'm going to address a lot of questions on that specific subject.
Excellent.
Yep. Anything else that we need to state? We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers.
I can't believe it.
It'll happen at some point. And
I cannot believe it. It's pretty awesome.
Next Sunday we'll be having Sunday live, but then we're going to take a break for a few weeks, and it'd be funny if it happens.
Of course it will.
While we're on vacation.
Exactly. Of course it will. You know what though? Isn't that us though? Like we don't promote ourselves. Then these things happen that we go, you know what? We should probably celebrate. Your book, like little things, and it's like, oh yeah, we're not around for that. Or
Yeah. So it goes.
Yes.
And in just a few minutes, I'm going to get into a Bible study on 1 John. I'm going to cover 1 John 3, verse 1. It's just going to be one verse, a very powerful verse. I'm going to break it down. We're going to talk about the power of living as the Father's child. So we'll get into that. But before we do that, would you like
me to say hi to everybody?
Would you like to greet the chat?
Yes. And thank you to everybody acknowledging my new hairdo.
Oh, it's so
nice. Little chopperoo. Thank you, everybody.
So
I love
nice.
it. It feels so nice and
it's wonderful.
Bouncing. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And you're ready for summer.
I am. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Say
Get
hello
my
everybody in
music
the
going.
chat.
Okay. Hello, Facebook. Everybody watching on Facebook. Hi, Faith. Rumble. Hello, Rumble. Courtney Laws. Hello, RRB. Welcome. Let me go to, and everybody else listening. Let me go to YouTube. Let me go up here. Hi, Wendy Burgess. Welcome to the Heart Healing Overcomer community. Hi, Cody. Lori Livingston. Happy Sunday. Hello. For the love of God. Hello. Allison. I just love that. So funny. Adrian. Hello, HS. Adrian. HS Smiling. Heidi. Sue Horn. Lovely, lovely Estelle. Hello, dear. Salty Bible Cracker. Hello. Margaret. Hello. Miss Hibiscus. Hello. Samuel Johnson. Grateful to have you here. Augustin. Hello. Lynn and Janata, they are in the car. So hello. Pay attention on the road, honeys. Polly. Shosha. Marty. Hello. Meg VC. Joshua. Miller. Dylan, Emma P. Andy's here. Hi, Andy. Letty, Stephanie L. Hello. Let's go down here. Teresa, I think I might have said that already. Time Walker, hello. Let me go down. Myrta, Tiffany, I did Samuel, I said that already. Demente, Paula, Dylan, Rise to Royalty, hello. Eve Starfill, hello. Mary Jo, hi Mary Jo. Melanie, Regina. All right, let me go to the end here. Ethan, hello. Ivy, Isabel, Alamac, Maria K, hello. Nashira, Neshan, Narnian. Let me go up. I'm struggling today, my burn. I'm blaming it on the burn. Evan R. Mary Angelica. Oh, what a pretty name. Night in Battle. I think I got everybody.
Fantastic. Just
GC Burden Lifter. Hello. Wait, I'll just read a super chat. Mark and Melissa, God bless you both. Lighthearted question for you both. What is your favorite summer dessert? Feel better, Melissa. And thank you, sir. Thank you.
It depends if I'm staying on the path or if I'm getting off the beaten path. If I'm getting off the wagon and allowing sugar to invade my life, which can be a dangerous thing for me. It is strawberry rhubarb pie.
Yes, it is.
And I'll probably eat the whole thing. Like, when they have pie eating contests? You know, I'd always watch these pie eating contests, and I go, that's not too hard at all.
Right. Yeah. You could dog those up. Yeah. What would I like? I like a lot of things. I'm going to be honest though. If I could just have anything I wanted, really, it would be a Dairy Queen ice cream cake.
Oh.
Let me tell you why. Okay. Because first of all, I can't eat that anymore because I can't have the crunchies because I have to be gluten free. But the crunchies with the hot fudge, the ice cream, the icing, I know it's so bad for you, but I just love it.
What is that thing called that has
awesome.
the bakery thing that I mentioned? That cannoli? Is that it?
Yes, the cannolis.
But what's the cream that I really like? Is it the
Oh no, you like in the donuts. You like the Bavarian cream.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't they make cannolis that have that?
No. Well, wait a second, because we go through this all the time.
Yeah.
It's either the Boston cream, which is more of the yellow, pudding cream
for a donut,
or the Bavarian, which is a white, almost icing.
Yeah.
So which one, babe?
Boston cream donut.
Okay, with the chocolate on top.
Yes.
Okay.
But when it comes to there is a cannoli that I've had where I go, this could get really bad.
Oh, okay.
This could get really dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I was at
isn't there like a vanilla one maybe or something?
I was at a party or get together and there's one of those, I'd probably be like, all right, I'm going to have a few more of these.
Yes. They're amazing. And when they just are sit like a day, so the cookie around it is a little bit kind of soggy, or do you like it super crispy? I like it the following day after they're made.
Oh, you're going.
I have a thing.
You're going deep into thoughts. I'm not even sure I have an answer for that.
Okay, yeah. Polly said it's the cannoli filled with ricotta and mascarpone.
The mascarpone, I think. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
That's what it is, Polly. Thank you.
Those
because it makes it nice and creamy.
Growing up in Hartford, they had those, Italian bakeries or
that's true.
Greek bakeries. Oh my goodness! You just go in. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're the Italian ones.
Yeah, yeah. And then they just have all those cookies. You're quite the cookie person, but you have a very specific kind of.
Yes, I like, and I make them. They are an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie, but I make them with almond flour, and because I like them to get like flat. I don't like a thicker cookie.
Yeah.
I don't know, because then they just get stale quicker.
Yeah. I can see your passion light up as you're making them, laying them out.
We could make this the whole.
Yeah. We're like, hey, tune in for Trauma, where we're going to talk
about cookies and ice cream and other fun things.
Our favorite desserts and everything like that. All right. Well, let me take some time. We'll get to some of your questions in just a moment. But this is a message that's near and dear to my heart, and I pray that as it washes over you, you'll be blessed. We've been in the book of 1 John. I'll continue as allows to each time we meet to cover more ground. Today we're in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. I want to take a few moments to speak to your heart about the importance of getting rooted in living as the Father's child. For so many of us in our mental health and emotional health and healing journey, we're learning to get ourselves rooted in this. And for many of us, we realize that we weren't. And we're needing to rediscover and get back to the foundation of how important this is. And I felt like it was worth just taking this verse by itself. I had planned on breaking down some other parts of passages in verse 2 and 3, but I said, you know what? This really stands out as a statement that needs to get rooted in our hearts. 1 John 3, verse 1 says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed on us, that we should be called children of God. Therefore, the world does not know us because it did not know him." So let me just take a few moments and break down some of this and give you some very simple perspectives to help you ingest this into your being so that it becomes a part of your experience. It becomes a part of your learning. Because my life has forever been changed by the revelation of understanding the Father's love, experiencing and growing in that more. I'm continually, forever growing in that. And also being rooted in your true identity. And when you talk about your identity, it's actually learning to be rooted in the simplicity of being the Father's child. He starts off with the word behold. And this is important to stop. I like to pay attention to words. And a lot of my Bible study really is first reading to just let it wash over my heart and just take in context. See what's before, what's after it. See where else in the Bible something like this might be said. But then I like to pay attention to words and just do a simple Strong's, break it down. Where's this word used in other places in the scriptures? And just allow that to help me to get context and language. And this word, behold, it's a word used as like a declarative statement. You know, we don't use this as much anymore. No one really says, behold. It kind of has an old English kind of feel to it. But it's a word, it's a declarative word, it's an invitation word. Something like you would say, hey, come and see, come check this out. You've got to see this. You've got to experience this. It's an inviting word to see it, to witness it, to experience. If you remember, Jesus used the word in Revelation chapter 3, verse 20, where he said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone opens the door, I will come in and dine with him and he with me. And so he was using this. It's a strong word of invitation. Come experience this. Come see this. And in Revelation, he's bringing it out as an invitation into intimate connection, to connect with God. And here, John is bringing us back to a fundamental understanding. And there's even this exclamation mark that's put at the end of the sentence. This is a big deal. This is one of those write it in all caps kind of message that we need to get into our hearts. And so the next statement he says is, what manner of love? This phrase it's saying, come experience this type of love. Other translations will say, what great love. Behold, what great love. This amazing love. See this kind of love that's available to you. The kind of love that delivers what the sentence brings out. And it's what manner of love. This word love speaks of agape. Many of you are familiar with this word. It's a word that communicates love. It's a word that communicates affection. It's a word that communicates benevolence, meaning you love, so love is shown as an action, that love has the fruit of something that is done towards someone else. It also speaks of goodwill. So in love, there's a sense of, I want what's good towards you. It brings about goodness. In fact, as we grow in the love of God, it relates to his goodness. And his goodness actually ties into his glory. In the scriptures, you'll see where this kind of goes down a whole tangent where Moses said, show me your glory. And God's like, you can't handle that, but I'll let my goodness pass before you. And there is this concept of the goodness of God ties to his loving kindness, goodness, kindness, love. These words all have ways of relating together. And so in this agape love is a sense of goodwill towards you, that my heart has thoughts of good happening to you, of extending goodness towards you. Agape also speaks of love, a love feast. You can actually look that, if you look into concordance or look into Strong's concordance, you'll see this phrase, love feast. Speaks of agape points us to a banquet. And in my series on what is love, I bring this out. It's something that you come to, you belong, you've been invited to come in, you're welcome, you're embraced. You're brought into connection. You're brought into belonging. So this word is so multifaceted. And John's going, come check out what this great love is that's available to you, but it comes from the Father. This type of love that we're talking about here is from the Father. And if you want to know love and you want to experience love and you want to see love manifesting in your life in a greater measure, you're going to need to get to know the heart of the Father. In all of Jesus's ministry and everything that he pointed out, you see him often pointing back to the Father. And even what he said and what he did, this is from the Father's heart. So you see this union of Christ and the Father and the work of the Holy Spirit taking place, the Godhead in operation, where it's the Father's heart and the Word of God, Jesus, the living Word, spoke it and the Holy Spirit carried it out. And so if you want to understand love, you're going to need to understand the Father, because he is love. And what we need to understand is that he bestows it. The Father has bestowed on us. And I like this, how this word communicates how God's love operates, is that it's a gift given to you. It's a gift that bestowing is a gift that is handed over as this beautiful blessing, this treasure given to you. So a few things I want to encourage you in your life and in your journey. I have so many resources on the subject of the Father's love and sonship and identity and what it means to get rooted in that. I want to encourage you to be on your own journey of beholding the Father's love, of have this sense of like, let's experience this. Come on, let's see the Father's love in our life. Let's experience this more. Let's share his love with each other. As I grow in it, as you grow in it, wow, that we would be amazed at the love that he has for us. We need to first understand that love originates from the Father. If you want to know love, get to know the Father, who is love, because 1 John 4:8, which we'll get into later, says that God is love. Now, here's a key place of application, is this love is not earned. This is not something you can perform for. This is not something that you try to get to a place where then you're loved. This is not something that you strive to try to finally land in a place where love is then experienced. It's something that just needs to be received right here, right now. And he ties this into being a child, as we'll get into a moment, the identity of a child. A child does not perform for love. A truly loved child, the way God designed family, is that the Father bestows love, he bestows identity to his children. If a child is performing for love, we know there's some problems in the dynamic of the home. So this is not something that I earn. It's something I learn to receive. I receive it, I practice it. And many of us are untangling ourselves from a lifestyle of performance where we have felt we have to earn this love. We have to strive for it, that if we get this thing right, get that thing right, then maybe I'll land into peace, and maybe that peace will bring me love. And we're needing to untangle ourselves from that. Another thing to understand about this love is that he relates to you as loved children. So the love of the Father that is relayed, that is bestowed to you, as you connect to that love, it enhances a sense of who you are as a child. How do you receive God's love? Well, you have to see yourself as a child of God and what that looks like to be a loved child. Jesus, in his ministry, when people were asking him questions about what the kingdom looks like, he brought a child to him. He said, we need to have this kind of heart in approaching the kingdom of God. And I say that to all of you as my brothers and sisters, and whatever you're working through in your mental health or your emotional health or your relationship journey, you're trying to experience healing from trauma and the battles that you've experienced in your life. Sometimes we want the complex, but God actually, in his deep healing work, brings us back to the simple. And we're rebooting, resetting, recalibrating ourselves by going back to what does it mean to be a child who's loved by my Father? Because this kind of love is going to show you who you are. As I connect to God's love, I learn to connect to who I am as a child of God. As I connect to who I am as a child of God, I am reminded of his deep love for me. And this is something I want to encourage you in, and a few things I want to recommend. And when you're connecting to your identity, because that's who you are, your core identity is a child of God. More than any accomplishment in your life, whatever role you have, whether you're a business person or you're a minister or whatever you're a parent, whatever job you have, whatever things you are seeking to grow and develop in your life, that's not your core identity. Those might be roles that you fulfill, and we all have them. We have multiple roles in our life. But at the end of the day, my core identity, I'm the Father's son. If you're a female, you're the Father's daughter. You are a child of God. And I think this has become so cliche that we just say it and we say it. Are we really connecting to what it means? The beauty of what it brings about in our life. Because because this kind of love is something so great, but yet so simple. So you learn, number two, you learn who you are by learning to be loved by the Father. Many people are trying to learn who they are by performing in life. Maybe I'll make a name for myself. Maybe people know me, or if I become influential, or if I become known for an accomplishment. And God in his operation brings us back to, no, you learn who you are by simply learning to be loved by the Father. And the Father bestows that love, and he bestows that identity to you. So this bestowing points me to a gift. I have a gift in front of me right now. And I've got to learn to receive it and practice it. Receive it and practice it. And one great way to receive it is simply thanking him. Thank you, Father, that I am your son, that I'm your daughter, that I'm your child. In fact, my prayer life often has that rooted as the beginning statement. It's not a ritual, it's just a habit. And it's a constant reminder that when I'm communicating with God, I often start off with, thank you so much that you're my Father and I'm your child, that I belong to you. Because that anchors me into everything else I say and everything else that I share. And I seek to take that and then practice that in my life and in my journey. Many of you say, well, how do I learn this? Well, it's receiving, it's practicing. It's receiving, it's practicing. It's receiving, it's practicing. That when I interact with you, I want to let that love show through. And then when you choose to love me, I want to acknowledge that. Christians can get very goofy when someone loves them, right? Oh, that was wonderful. I appreciate what you did. Oh, it wasn't me. It was the Lord. You know, we do all these things and we just get squirmy. We look down around, we reject it, we push it back. And I think we need to make more time and room and space to acknowledge when another human being is being a blessing and demonstrating love towards us. So this is not performance. It is practice. I remember early on in what I would call my healing and freedom journey, of each morning, I would just take a pause. I had such a go life, and I couldn't sit still for 5 seconds, but I was learning to. And I remember this simple primer. I would stop, pause, put my hand over my heart, thank the Father for his love for me. And I would just think about my day. What would my day look like if I was connected and anchored in the love that he has for me? And I saw a bunch of things in my thoughts about not people pleasing, not striving, not having to move so fast, not getting locked up in so many fears. It helped calibrate the compass of what I feed and what I was going to start starving. And what I began to start starving was all the things I did to try to make myself feel better for God and before God. And recognizing this love is here. And many of you are making a shift in your life, in your journey, where the shift is you're learning, instead of the striving, you're learning to be a recipient, a receiver in gratitude, and then taking out of that and sharing with those that you come into contact with. And I believe that can be life-changing from the constant go, busy, trying to earn, trying to perform kind of lifestyle that so many of us live in. John is anchoring the people of God. Behold, this amazing love that brought you into being a child of God. And don't forget, at the end of the day, that's really who you are. And always remind yourself and anchor yourself in it. And he says, hey, in the end of verse 1 here, he says, therefore the world does not know us. The world doesn't know who we really are because they don't know him. They don't recognize the stamp of who you are as a child of God. And that can go in a lot of directions because the world system relates to us in our roles and what we do and what we perform. That's the frequency that's constantly hitting at you all day long is you don't belong unless you have something to show for it, or you're not going to be loved unless you have this kind of wealth or this kind of influence or this kind of accomplishment, or there's something to bring to the table that shows you that you belong. Beware of that, because the world doesn't understand the frequency that we live in because they have no connection to the Father. They have no connection to understanding this depth of love that we have a privilege to live in. So John does this over and over again in his writings. He's contrasting. This is who we are, and this is who the world is. This is what we have. The world does not have this. So understand that as you're living in the world, they don't know who you are as children of God, and they don't know the Father. We, as children of God, we need to pick up on other children of God and encourage them in their childrenness, in their children identity, to help take the pressure off, to remind ourselves we're God's kids and we're living in his playground. We're living in his kingdom, and we need to constantly be encouraged and reminded back to that setting, because we take ourselves so seriously. We get so super grown up in our thoughts and the pressures that we live by. And God's going, hey, remember, you're my kid. And this understanding of being God's child is not something the world understands, and they don't have connection to this. And there's a statement the world often says, and it has a bit of deception in it. And you'll hear politicians or you hear influencers and people, they'll say this statement, well, we're all God's children, right? And make that kind of statement. I know what they're trying to say. Many times they're bringing out, we're created by God. Okay, true. But then they lump it into saying, well, we're all God's children. Well, this gift is only received by receiving the finished work of Jesus Christ in his death and his resurrection. That brings us into this special gift of what Paul would call sonship. And so John is affirming the body of Christ. This is who you are. It's a treasure. The world doesn't get it. It's not something the world has. Now, here's something I want to leave with many of you who watch my materials and you've been blessed by anything I talk about. Many of you spiral, and you spiral because you struggle to connect with the Father's love. And you think, oh, it must mean it's because I'm not really his child. And it disqualifies you from connection, even though all of John's writing is affirming that while contrasting the world. You take the world and you put yourself in it because you struggle to connect to the Father's love. Meanwhile, you're on a journey of learning who the Father is and a journey of learning what his great love is towards you, especially through the grace of Jesus Christ that is brought through that death and resurrection and that new life being brought to you. So this wars against you. So what it does when you put yourself into that interpretation, you've received Christ, you're a believer in him, but yet you struggle with connecting to the Father, you struggle with who you are, you struggle with love. So then you disqualify yourself and you treat yourself as a non-believer. And when that happens, this opens the door up more for condemnation to hammer away at your thinking. And why? Because the work of condemnation is over those who do not believe. When we come into the kingdom, there is no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus. That God's operating pathway of communicating is not in condemnation, and all this stuff that we get lost in, we get knotted up in. I say this to bring you to this statement. Beware of treating yourself as someone who is of the world and condemned, when you need to come into John's affirmation and you need to embrace being the beloved, the dearly loved. You see, I lived most of my Christian life early on with always feeling disconnected, disqualified, out of it. Yeah, I'm a Christian, but man, I feel like God's upset with me. He's angry with me. I feel disconnected from him. And there's a war of condemnation where I'd put myself under thoughts that would condemn when I was placing myself into the identity of somebody who did not believe. Because God is not condemning his children. And we'll get into that more in John's writing, where he talks about our hearts not condemning us. And so I want to say that to bring you into, you're going to need to, on a daily basis, remind yourself that you are loved. Remind yourself of who you are, because there is a war that fusses and pitches a fit over you getting rooted in that. Because the more you get rooted in that, the stronger your faith grows and the stronger your effectiveness in this life is. It's all going back to being loved and living out of that love. So, Father, I pray you'd keep us rooted in this. Keep us rooted and established. Bring us back to this constantly. Remind us on a daily basis. And may we remind each other, behold, what manner of love that you've given us, Father, that we may be called children of God. It is a beauty. I never want to move past it. I never want to feel like I graduated from it. I'm always learning, always growing, always continuing in it. And I thank you for this all. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to take a break and be back in just a moment to take your questions. I am going to dig into your questions and looking forward to going through them. Many of you've sent these in a while ago, and I took them and put them in a category of trauma, going, you know what, at some point I'm just going to do a broadcast on that subject and dive into it. So let me roll up my sleeves and get into your questions. The first one I'm going to bring up is somebody who is in the work of helping people and is just wanting some feedback about dealing with emotions. Hey, Mark, I always enjoy your messages and perspectives on mental health and ministering to the brokenhearted. I wanted to know if you had any more material, specifically on emotional work. Many people ask me that, and they look for references, recommendations from time to time if I run across something that I find helpful. But personally, I'm finding in my journey, I'm working hard at continuing to develop aspects of teaching and materials that are going to help people in their emotional life and emotional journey. So it's entwined in everything that I talk about. So I'm trying to do my best to contribute to that. My ministry has done theophostic prayer for a long time, and in many ways it's fruitful, but it can also be dicey if it's not done properly. And lately I've been wrestling with the whole hearing from God perspective versus God's providence and relying on his word as sufficient. I can understand that, and I think you have to let yourself learn in the journey. I had mentioned, and I did a broadcast this past week about prophecy, deliverance, and inner healing modalities like theophostic, sozo, and Emmanuel method, and gave some feedback and doing my best to show you the in the trenches observations that I've had, my concerns, and because I want to be a help to people. But one of the things that I have found is that in many of the spiritual techniques, when I say spiritual, we're trying to interact with God about our trauma. I don't necessarily recommend this perspective of trying to get God to tell me something about my trauma. I share in that video some of the concerns I have with it. And one of them is when you're healing from trauma, it's emotional work. You're learning how to relate to your emotions, especially because with trauma, there's so much shattering that's taken place. And one of the rebuilding is rebuilding the muscles back again of learning how to relate to your emotions. So I don't know that I find the most fruit in someone's life continually going, well, what's God saying about your trauma? What's God saying about this experience? What's God saying? And people may misunderstand me when I say, well, how does this make you feel? And people think, well, we're removing God from the situation. No, not at all. And I'm not making this a man-centered thing either. But we have a lot of emotional, ill-equipped people amongst us. Most of us are admitting, hey, we don't have much emotional equipping. And Christian maturity is learning how to develop maturity in your emotional life. That's what the fruit of the Spirit is. The fruit of the Spirit is all emotional and relational. The fruit of the Spirit which is a sign of the Holy Spirit at work, right, is not how many scriptures you've memorized or what your positions in church are or arguments you can win in debating doctrine. I believe in sound doctrine, but we value certain metrics that actually are not spiritual maturity. You can have somebody who knows all kinds of scriptures. In fact, I've met them. They know all kinds of scriptures, but they don't know how to deal with people. They don't know how to deal with their thoughts. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. They have addictions, all kinds of things in their life. And we really need to get back to the fundamentals. And so a lot of trauma work is understanding, how did this make you feel? What did you begin to believe about it? What do you want to begin believing? What is a healthier place to move towards when it comes to your belief systems and how you believe? And how can we begin walking the journey of that? And I don't know necessarily that there is a cut and dry, this method, this methodology, this thing, this is this perfect thing. I find in many inner healing practices, there's a lot of like, this methodology is the best, it's the best way. We need to run everyone through it like a car wash. And the journey is just a lot more complex than that. It's not this quick fix. It's not what we've made it. We need to prepare believers in Christ to take journeys with what they're working through and growing through. We need to see all of this more from a discipleship lens versus a quick fix miracle thing that's just going to be broken off of you. We've just done a dramatic disservice to people. We've messed with their expectation, and now they're condemned and depressed because they feel like they're missing something. So anyway, you said, I've been in Christian addiction ministry and jail ministry for 12 years personally. I appreciate your work, and thank you for serving others in that way. I know many people who've been involved in those kind of arenas. I've been on my own discovery as I just finished my BA in psychology at South Florida Bible College. A lot of terms and methods of counseling that we use at my ministry, I never knew the proper name for it or the origin. Such things as defense mechanisms, the bottle family, dysfunctional family, and other things. I've recently been on a practical theology kick where I'm looking more into if what I do in ministry lines up biblically. There are many different views of integration of psychology and Christian counseling, some biblical counseling that denies psychology as a useful practice, while others believe it can describe the problems but not prescribe solutions. I've been pretty jumbled up with so many different stances on counseling that I become confused. I believe I can at times seek after solutions rather than the solution, meaning, I'm assuming you meaning God. I don't think there's anything wrong with discovering and seeking, but all from its proper place in the Lord. Sorry for babbling on. The question about emotional work would be a good start. I heard you say that you believe emotional work is more of a process and a journey. Yeah, absolutely. Emotionally and in daily life rather than these quick fix one-time events. Our ministry is a program for men coming out of addiction with 6 classes, so we believe in a relational process as well. Yet we also see moments of coming to deeper recognition of God's truth as vital to the process and not a supplement to it. Yeah, and what I think needs to be understood is that God's truth is not just something you memorize. It needs to be experienced. And in order for me to experience it, I have to practice it. It has to become a part of my daily life. It has to form the decisions I make in stepping forward. That's where the experience comes in, where a lot of times we're like, well, just memorize scriptures and just kind of get them in your head. And we need that application. What does this mean in my day to live this out? And that's where I think that helpful counsel starts to go, what does this look like? And usually the application is very, very simple, not complex. So anyway, this whole thing would probably be more of a conversation than a question, but if I'm honest, it's a start. Thanks again, and keep up the good work. And thank you. I think that people get lost in methodology. They get lost in a lot of arguments, and people are right. What about this? What about this? What about this? And I think that you have to give yourself room for discovery along the way. I've shared of my views of psychology and counseling and those kind of things. You can go check out those broadcasts where I do deeper dives into them and some of my frustrations and some of the good things. But the key is really that our healing journey, it's emotional work. And it's tiring. And if you've been deeply traumatized or been under a series of trauma, one of your coping mechanisms is going to be a shutdown mechanism. You'll have a tendency to get into a place of forget it's too much work, and you kind of shut down that area. So part of it is learning to show up to do that continual work. Recovery groups can tend to get this because they're like, okay, you got to show up to your meetings. You need a sponsor. You got to read through this, do the daily work, do the assignments. So you're getting into a habitual experience of working through your emotional life and emotional journey. So I pray that what I share can be a help and a blessing to you in those areas. A question here, I'm wanting to move due to severe reminders of trauma that cause severe stress responses. Will that work, or will the PTSD follow you? Well, just moving doesn't heal your heart. Just moving doesn't heal from the effects of trauma or any other thing that you're working and going through. However, there can be a sense of getting out of the environment that continually keeps us in the drama pull. So there's different types of moving. I think you're writing about geographical, just moving out of state. That may be a helpful step. But if you're not doing the work, yeah, the stuff's just going to it'll keep happening, and the stuff that you're struggling with is going to keep happening. So it's not an all or nothing question. It's more like, yeah, moving can be a help, providing you're doing the work. If you realize, and some people realize over time, I'm in this area where, for example, people living with family, and they're like, I need to move on. I need to move away. Or you're in a social setting that's continually pulling you back into old patterns that are dysfunctional. It's a good opportunity to think about, maybe I need to have a new environment that I live in. And some people, a start over or getting out of a region, getting out of an area can be helpful for you. I know that for me, there was a point in time where I knew staying in Connecticut where I lived and in the environment and the area and the constant orbit of the pull that was taking place. And so for us, it was helpful to have a reboot and to start a new chapter, which then opened up into just a more focus in my work, more focus in what we feel called to do, but also gave us more room to heal from a lot of things I experienced in ministry and church work in Connecticut. And so was leaving Connecticut the answer? No, but it's a part of the step into a new environment. But I was somebody that was doing the work and continually doing the work. So I pray that's a help to your journey. There's another question here. How do you work through feeling like a complete failure at your church because you see everyone growing in their calling, but you're completely stuck due to the symptoms of PTSD? Well, I want to push back on your question or your observation that everyone is just growing in their calling, because it's not necessarily as bright as everybody makes it to be. I personally think that we're overhyping this thing called calling, of trying to find your calling as far as like your ministry, your work. I think we've ramped that thing up way too much, and we need to simplify it more and just take advantage of opportunities we have to be a blessing, to pay attention to what excites our heart. I think in the practice, you discover what lights up your heart and what ignites a sense of passion. That's what I discovered in my life and my journey. I just took advantage of opportunities, and then out of that, I went, I like doing that. That brings a lot of excitement to my heart. And so my big encouragement for people is opportunities, take advantage of them. And be able to say yes to new things that come your way. And then pay attention to what connects to your heart and it helps you to get an understanding of your own wiring. But I think this whole calling thing, find your calling and what's your destiny and all these things, we're way overhyping, because it's driven by finding significance in that, in the sense of like, I mean something now because I have a ministry. I mean something now because I started a business. I mean something because I figured out what I'm called to do. And I think that we have gotten really off course with the pressure of that. Meanwhile, you have a lot of pain and PTSD that creates a struggle in your journey. Having PTSD doesn't disqualify you from stepping out, serving others, and helping others. But there is a war of an inner critic that will really, really mess with you. You wrote, I feel very isolated and different from others, and like no one can relate. That is something that is very understandable. But just don't let that be a perspective that now drives your life. It's okay to go, you know what? I just don't feel like I fit in. That's all right. But beware of that now becoming a lens that just goes over everything in your life and now prevents you from taking fruitful steps forward. Because many times we can get stuck in that. I can't fit in. I can't relate. And it leaves us in a defeated place with no options. It's to the point where I don't want to go to church anymore. So see where this is kind of leading, because I'm not enough or doing enough. That's the inner critic that comes out of trauma, that gets inflamed out of trauma. This do more, do better, and nothing's ever good enough. So you feel constant cycles of unworthiness. So therefore you feel like a failure to God, others, and yourself. That is the language of shame. That's what shame does. It wants to continually make you feel like a failure, and then it will point to other people and say they are so successful. And I just want to push back on that. I want to push back on the people that are famous or the people that have a lot of followers. They're successful and I'm not. And I just don't see God having that same lens. And I don't think that that's his metric. There's lots of things you could do to look successful. And metrics the world puts right in front of you to make you look successful. And beware of getting caught up in chasing that, as a metric of feeling significant, and as a metric that because I'm not doing what they're doing, then something's really wrong with me. We need to get back to the simplicity of loving our neighbor as ourselves, of just being a blessing where it shows up. We have this picture of large ministries and worldwide influence. And I think it has just been overplayed, overemphasized. It's not that big of a deal, because many of those people that chase those things, I'm sorry to say this, but they often become very shallow people relationally, because they have to serve a machine that takes over. So enjoy your simple life. Enjoy a very grounded life, as Paul said, to mind your own business, to work with your hands, live a simple life. That's what I want my aim to be in my journey. And that's more helpful for healing of trauma, because we have many people in high positions or highly influential places that have unhealed trauma in their life, unaddressed, unhealed trauma. And those areas are seeping out into how they handle people, into how they live their life behind the scenes. So what I'm sharing with you is super, super important. I'm going to do one more here, and then we'll check on the chat and see what's happening there. It's about panic attacks. Can early morning waking panic attacks be the unloading of suppressed emotion from childhood repeated verbal abuse? Yeah, it certainly can. Now, when you wake up first thing in the morning, if you're having panic attacks, it's a sign of a cortisol spike. So it can have a lot to do with how you sleep at night, with how your sleep patterns are going. It can have to do with the stuff that you're carrying that's weighing upon you. But when you've lived under verbal abuse, the echo of those words remains for a very long period of time, unless somebody gets some help to work through it, or unless they're doing the work. And being aware of like how those echoes from our childhood affected us to this day. Everyone has these. You have the effect of words that were said and words that were not said. And both can have damaging effects because words are so powerful. So yeah, that can definitely affect you. My premise about panic attacks is that most of the panic attacks that don't have a direct trigger, meaning like, like a direct stimulus that creates a sense of panic. Most of them are a sense of anxiousness coming out of not being loved properly, not knowing how to connect to love or pain that needs processing and grieving. Because many times people would call me and go, Mark, I need help. I had a panic attack today. And they often have a low level of anxiety that's been going on leading up to this. And it just kind of had a burst where childhood pain or emotions that haven't been dealt with, things that need to be processed through and grieved through. That is important to understand about painful emotions and anxiety. Those emotions need space to work through them. And I find there's a lot of grieving that needs to be done in our lives. And I don't think we understand actually how grieving works and the need for it, to mourn, to cry, to lament, to allow ourselves time to let emotions work through us. Trauma is bringing out how our bodies get caged up with these things. And I'll get more into that in just a bit. And so, but anyways, to answer your question, that's a little bit of what's happening. My love, is there anything going on in the chat world that you want to make note of?
Oh, let me see. Sorry, everybody. My burn is not doing well.
Oh, hon, I'm sorry.
I have a blister, so I had to leave and go get cool water. I was Googling online, what do you do for a steam burn? And it said you needed to run it under cool water, not cold water. I had ice cold water. You're not supposed to do that. So that's why it was getting worse. Anyway, so I'm going to be okay.
It's all right. It's all right. Do what you need to do.
I'm not trying to make it about me. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I just want to say, too, welcome Nonya. She joined the Heart Healing Overcomer community. So welcome to our YouTube little cute family that we have.
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming this super chat goes to when we were talking about food in the beginning from GD All Detailing. So you like arepas? Are those, I looked that up. That is arepas. It's some kind of a Spanish something.
What's that word that you're saying?
Arepas.
A-R-E.
It looks like a,
Is that like a sandwich?
it looks like a, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking it up here. It's a South American thing. So I'm not as familiar with it.
Yeah.
Even though I look like I'm Argentinian.
What do those look like? I used to get them all the time when my sister and I used to eat them all the time. No, they were like pockets. You would cut them. They were thin. What were they called?
I don't know.
They were so yummy. That's what they look like.
Yeah.
We don't know about those, but maybe I can't eat them and you can't eat them.
I would like to.
You could on a cheat day.
I would like to have me some arepa.
Okay, CV. Thoughts on maintaining mental health when you live in a physical disability in your body and feel trapped?
If you have a physical disability, like a sickness or or some kind of,
Yes.
extra reminders of kindness and self-compassion. Because when, we often put expectations on ourselves, not taking into consideration what's going on. We expect ourselves to be marathon runners when we have an injury, and I think that it's what love does and grace does is it helps put perspective, right? It keeps us from being victimized completely by our pain so that we get defeated. But it also it alleviates us from that pressure that we put on ourselves. And a lot of us live under that pressure of what we feel we should be doing or so compassionate grace is a big aspect of it.
Excellent. So people are saying it's like a pita bread, I guess?
Yeah. My dad would to me, it makes me think of like a Cubano sandwich. My dad would take
he
would take the George Foreman grill and he would make the sandwich and then he would just put it in, he'd get that doughy Portuguese bread.
Oh, so good.
and he would take it and he would just smash that thing in the George Foreman grill and it would come out very, very thin, but the cheese would be melted, the meat would be melted.
What's a good cheese you use in that?
Well, I like Swiss, but
okay.
But a good, as Max would say, cheater, a good cheddar.
It's good.
We're talking a lot about food today.
I know we are. It's not fair. Well, is everybody having picnics this weekend? Food,
Yeah.
probably good food this weekend
Yeah.
anyway.
Happy Memorial Day, everyone.
I know, right?
All right.
Sir, I don't have any other
Okay.
ones.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Let me get into
feel free to continue.
Yeah, let me get into some questions about like trauma being stored in the body. And then I'm going to get deeper into the woods of the struggles and problems that trauma brings out in people's lives. But to a lot of great things said here. Okay, I see a lot of mysticism and new age perspectives on healing from trauma stored in the body, such as autoimmune and chronic illnesses, and haven't found anything biblically based. Would love to hear your biblical perspective of this, if at all possible. Thanks again. Okay, the statement, I need something biblically based, is tricky, because what do you mean by that? Many black and white, as far as like black and white thinking people, when they ask the question, I need something biblical, they want a verse that says this kind of thought of trauma will bring out autoimmune in the body. The word autoimmune is not in the Bible, so you're not going to find it there, right? So there are words we use today that you won't necessarily find in Scripture. Now, I understand what you're saying, because a lot of trauma teaching can go into secular psychology, and then there's also a lot of new age kind of perspectives that grab onto this subject. And I started this journey saying, and some people, got a little fussy about it. It's just true. I said a lot of the trauma perspectives you're going to find that are helpful, you're not necessarily going to find directly from Christians. And we're still in a new phase in humanity of understanding the impact that trauma has on people. So if somebody makes a statement about trauma and they practice New Age, it doesn't make what they said not valid if it's valid, okay? But I'm not going to necessarily sit under their teaching, be discipled by them. But I remember sitting down with somebody who practiced just functional medicine, but she got, in my opinion, kooky and was talking to me about chakras and stuff like that. And I'm like, I have filtration that I can operate with, right? But there were some things she told me that were helpful in my journey. So going back to what you're saying, though, is what do we mean by biblical base? Does it need a literal sentence? Are we saying it's something that doesn't violate Scripture? Now, if you read in the Old Testament, you see a lot of trauma response in the Bible. But the Bible doesn't say this is trauma. Okay. So you know what I mean? When we say like, what do you mean when somebody says, I want something biblically based? What do you mean by that? You see all throughout the Old Testament, especially because we see more of the stories there, the anguish. So I'll give you some examples of a trauma response. They'd hear the news, somebody dying, they'd tear their clothes off, they would hit the floor, they would just weep. And they sometimes would just weep for days in grieving. So that was a basically what they teach in trauma, of you needing physiological aspects of working through emotions. You see in the Jewish practices and customs of those kind of reactions, very visceral. And we read them as modern day sophisticated people, like, oh, crazy kind of stuff, It's too emotional, too dramatic, right? That's kind of part of the problem. We have a very dismissive relationship with emotions. And it falls in our culture, it falls into our history. So if you read in the Bible, whether it's David, and I go back to my broadcast on trauma in the Bible, my goodness, the moments where they cried until they had no more tears left in them anymore. Or go over to Job and read what his friends did when they came over, and they sat in silence with him for a week or something like that. It's a combination of just silence, of pause, of reflection, just silence alone, of like giving room, like we're not going to be busy. We're going to pause right now. We're just going to let these emotions settle. It's in the Bible everywhere. The grieving, Lamenting. Look up lamenting in the Bible. Look up the word grieving. Ask ChatGTP or Chat GPT. Sorry. Ask AI. Ask AI. Give me all the moments in the Bible where people grieved or lamented or had traumatic experiences and reacted to it. It's so if you're willing to see it, read through the Bible and read through it from the lens of trauma. Read through the lens of emotions. Read through the lens, just watch. And that's something that I do a lot in my Bible reading. I just like to notice the emotional toll, the pain, the heartache. We read it and move on. So anyway, yes, there are New Age people out there. If it crosses my social media path, for example, I might go, okay, that's a good viewpoint. They might make a valid point. Just like if I go to my doctor and they tell me something about a condition that's going on in my body and give me some feedback and here's some things that might help. Okay, thank you very much. Doesn't mean I'm going to serve everything that they think and serve every pathway that they may have in their life and in their journey. So I really believe that you can be somebody that can benefit from something somebody says, but doesn't mean that you're serving their core belief systems. And so that leads me to second question here on the concept of the body being stuck. Hey, Mark, I've listened to most of your podcasts and material online, and you really speak to me. I've been going to a Christian therapist for the past year in relation to some complex trauma, along with the perfectionism and OCD issues. I've made great strides. However, I feel I've reached a plateau in my healing, and it seems my therapist thinks that as well. Now, you all have to understand, I'm not going to try to speak in a way to speak against what your counselor or therapist is saying, okay? I'm stepping in. I'm just reading a question. I'm a brother from another mother, so keep that in mind. However, you've been in therapy for a year. Complex trauma, perfectionism, and OCD. You're still early in the journey. Still early. Even if you're meeting every week, it's still early in the journey. Most people are like, what? This takes forever. Not if you have a journey mindset, because then it's not about like just fixing. And perfectionists are not very good at understanding how trauma has affected them. It's because we're very dismissive of pain, and because we're always in a state of mind of trying to do right, do better, do right, do better. And it took me years of recognizing how things affected me because I didn't make room for it. I was so focused on doing the right thing, I didn't make room for how things affected me in my life. Here's a saying that I often tell people. When you have perfectionism or OCD, which is often both, you tend to overestimate what you can handle and you underestimate how life affected you. Let me say that again. With perfectionism and OCD, you overestimate what you think you can handle and you underestimate the pain that you've experienced in your life. You underestimate how it affects you. You're very dismissive of it. So, okay, I haven't even gotten to your question yet. So you feel like you've reached a plateau. You may have just reached a spot where your therapist goes, okay, I'm not really sure what feedback to give to you at this point. Sometimes, honestly, therapists are like, in their own private, quiet time, they're like, I don't know what else to say, you know? And so she sent me the following message. After reflecting deeply on our last session, I believe that the reason you might feel stuck is relating to what's happening in your body. We've been collaborating for quite some time now, and you've developed skills, utilized various tools, and even engaged in forgiveness and renouncing exercises. Given this progress, I encourage you to explore options like brain spotting and somatic work. I'm a little hesitant and confused. So now we're back to the gentleman who wrote this. I'm a little hesitant and confused about my body being stuck, and I'm not sure what to think about this next step she's recommending. I've read some experiences from those who have tried these treatments online, and there's some pretty intense stories of trauma manifesting in these sessions, and some say it was worth it once getting through it, while others not so much. What's your take on the body being stuck? Can you share any of your opinion or shed light if this is something that could help, or if you've experienced or if you have experience with this topic, I greatly value input. Well, I would say to any trauma approach, don't jump into it if you're not comfortable. Learn about it, get some input about it, learn from someone who's actually doing it, meet with them. You don't feel forced to do anything. I think if somebody is working through trauma and they had a massive spike in doing the work, it's a couple of things. They hit their overwhelm. Their window of tolerance was broken, to use that term. There's like a window of tolerance we have. There's a dude named Siegel, I think is his name, who developed that terminology, meaning we have like a window of like what we can handle, and then there's that overwhelm. I'm going to talk about that at some point, about that factor. And we need to find that like where we're stretching, but not completely overwhelmed, because if we're completely overwhelmed, we check out from the experience of it. So I don't think you have to rush into anything, but here's the premise of the trauma being stuck in the body. Here's the premise. When you engage a traumatic moment, your body goes into fight or flight. You have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic that's kicking in. One is to gear you up. The other is to calm you down. Your whole nervous system is built around being able to handle stressors, come back down, handle stressors, come back down. With trauma, you're taken off guard in such a way your normal capacities get frozen or get overwhelmed. So that stress affects your body, right? Now, what we were made for is we were made to process through what we experience. So if you have a stressful day, what do? You come home and what we say, we decompress, right? So most people just sit and watch TV, which is not a great way to decompress from stress, but I'm not judging. I'm not saying, oh, that's not where I'm going with that. It's not the best way, because TV is more of like, we're just not thinking and just zoning out, versus letting the day wash through us. So your body then takes this emotion, and let's look at where stress goes for you. So everybody watching this or listening to me, think about for a moment, where does stress go? When you feel anxious or stressed out, where does it go? For some people, it goes right here in their neck. Some people right here in their chest. Others, like me, I'll get like here and my shoulders. It's just like, oh my goodness, it feels like just pain, right? Some people feel it in their gut. They can't eat, they're nauseous, they lose their appetite. Some people can feel it like in their hips or legs. Why? Because in the stress of a trauma moment, everything gets constricted now, and energy is being pulled from all these different places, right, to use it, right? So think about, you ever had to run from a dog? Like I remember like times I've had to, like I was in my neighborhood and I had to run from a dog that was like, right? And then I felt my legs really sore later because I had to exert intense energy that I wasn't ready for in the moment, and I felt that later. Well, later it'd be helpful to stretch those muscles, maybe massage them a little bit, maybe put some ice if needed, right, to help that. So many times people, the stress of trauma now impacts their body, and it didn't get room to work itself out. So, for example, for me, the stress of life I experience, it shows up in my neck and my shoulders, here in my chest, and so it can be helpful to as I'm thinking about renewal of my mind and letting those emotions go and casting my cares upon God, to just relax my shoulders, to maybe even stretch them, right? Because the nervous system utilized energy. Okay, so that's a scientific thing you can look up. Your fight or flight takes energy from other organ systems, right? It takes from your digestive system, because it's like, it's not time to eat, you're running from a bear, right? It pulls energy from your reproductive organs. It's not time to make a baby, it's time for energy to deal with the stressor. So all that's going woof at a traumatic moment, right? Did you have room and space to let that not only in your psychological faculties, in your thought and emotion, but allow your body to be a part of it? And a lot of modern civilization has a disconnect with that. Everything is very cerebral. Well, I had a stressful day and I just need to cast my cares on God and now go about my day because your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. We're just like a bunch of Christian robots going around. And we don't know how to grieve and let it work through and allow our body to come into contact with recovery. So that's the concept of it. And I talked to you about, what the Bible says about it. The church doesn't necessarily live in this. So then we have New Agers talking about it. We're mad about the New Agers, but then we didn't gain what was given to us. So it's this constant dilemma that's always going on. But it's not like necessarily, it's the secret thing hidden in your body and you need to find it. It's more about allowing your nervous system to do what it's supposed to do, where you're engaging a relaxation of coming back to peace. And for many traumatized people, they're learning how to develop relaxation of where they're embodying the truth that they're at rest and they're now safe. They're no longer in danger. And so furthermore, there's many practitioners that recognize like unhealed trauma can manifest as diseases. I don't like that as a silver bullet, that because you have that now, because you had that trauma, now you have this disease. I don't like silver bullet approaches. However, it can certainly contribute. It can certainly contribute to that. I know for autoimmune, I can pinpoint what was going on in my life and what was happening and how my body reacted and responded. And I'm still, working through that health-wise and in other ways. But learning how to take, we'll use trauma, and I'll use it as a spectrum, down to even just day-to-day stress. We are learning how to let our bodies engage the peace of God, which passes all understanding. This is not a thing, get my mind, get my brain, right? I think I can. It's more of a resting, learning to trust. My body's participating in this. And so you bring up a bunch of things, though. I don't know. Maybe you hit a wall with your therapist, though. Maybe you're gone as far as your therapist can take you. So it may not necessarily be a trauma specialist. It may be a different therapist that is willing to go further. Because the feedback you got about you've done renouncing exercises and forgiveness, forgiveness is often the Christian thing we throw on. It's a giant Band-Aid that we throw at trauma. And we think you just forgive, you're fine. And if you're still having symptoms, then you haven't forgiven. And it's just not true. It's a very, very one-sided look at a multifaceted problem that people have and struggles that they have. So anyways, I need to get under the blood for a minute, so I'm going to bring that up.
And I just rap because say, under the blood, me say me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus cover me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus, you will cover me under the blood. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood that Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me, I go break up, put the blood on me face just like a makeup. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood that Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me heart break up, put the blood on me face just like a makeup. Under the blood, under the blood, Jesus cover me. Jesus, you will cover me. Say under the blood, under the blood. Jesus, you will cover me. Jump on bass.
Jump on bass.
Listen, Christian I fight some things with them not see. Stronghold demons and principality. Remember they are the temple. Keep it holy, sanctify, justify, give God the glory. Fighting against three terrible enemy. The world, Satan and myself against me. What the anointing, pour it on me and make me trample the devil on it. Say, under the blood, under the blood, under the blood, Jesus cover me. Lord,
you want to hear it?
You want to hear it?
Yes.
Drum and bass. Drum and bass.
Thank you. Jump on bass. Okay, so let me get into. I'm gonna try to tackle a bunch here because I want to be a help to y'all. So I'm gonna get into a bit of the damage that trauma does to people and how they then relate to others and how they relate to people in life, how they relate to their family. And these next few questions have a lot of the fallout of that. I want to share some perspectives. So this question, Mark, thank you for your work in this area. Your videos have helped me in my own healing journey. My question is, how do you work through the people you have harmed because of trauma, through anger or other actions that not reflective of the fruit of a Christian life? Is it best to apologize to people you have harmed before you begin to heal, even if it has been several years? Well, you're doing a common thing that many people do. Do I do this first or then this first? This is not a do this first and then this first and then that and that. This is a flow that takes place because you're learning to heal. You're learning to be kind to yourself. You're learning to forgive yourself, while also learning to forgive others as well too. I think when it comes to making amends with people, one of the things that I recommend is that needs to be done in sobriety, because many times people rush to it and can poke at a wound. They've wounded somebody and they're poking at it without showing the fruit of a new journey that you're taking. So in being sober, don't rush to it to just make yourself feel better. A lot of apologies or making amends is more about the person feeling better than it is really just healing the relationship. So it often takes time. There's many compulsive apologizers out there. I know myself, I've had my share of that. So it's not about, I got to apologize to people first and then I can start healing. If you're aware of recovery, that's one of the steps, is making amends, of recognizing people that you have truly done some harm to. But you need to do the work of moving in new directions, because it's helpful when you're making amends that you're already on a new path. Otherwise, like John said, let's not love in word, but in deed and in truth. He's saying talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. So going and, but if there's been some time and you're moving on a new journey, that can be a helpful part of that making amends. Another similar question, but it's around a gentleman whose wife has had a lot of traumatic childhood stuff, and she's just now dealing with her trauma, which that is a very common thing where you don't really realize how that stuff affected you. Along the way, though, I feel like she has also hurt so many people in her own life, including those in our family. Again, she is working hard to overcome much, so I want to extend grace. But I guess I go back to the expression, hurt people hurt people. How does one recognize better the hurts they've caused to others because of their own trauma? I can't begin to tell you the pain I've experienced in our marriage due to her own past issues, but I'll spare you the details. So I feel that the propulsion out of your question is that her trauma acting out, I guess if we could call it, has taken a toll on you. It's really taken a toll on you and what she's done towards you and also to the family. I don't know if it's kids or extended family and so forth. So I think that's, if I was sitting down with you, that's something of being able to process that, because there is a realm of grace, there's a realm of love. And within that, though, is sobriety. It's healthy boundaries. It's like, hey, there's been some damage here. So this isn't like just, oh, hey, I know it's trauma, everything's better, and now everybody just forget about it. It's like, whoa, no. Sobriety. I see it. I'm not feeding shame spirals, but I'm also not denying it, that there's been some damage. And so it takes having helpful conversations of like, all right, let's be on the same page and start moving in new directions. Because while there's love and grace, there's also, okay, we're responsible for how we act. We're responsible for how we come across and how our actions have impacted the family in negative ways. So how does one recognize better the hurts they've caused to others because of their own trauma? I think that goes back to self-awareness. If you're not self-aware and if you're not emotionally aware, then you become blinded to how your life affects other people. And so hopefully as a part of her trauma awareness, she's going to become more emotionally aware of how her life, not only has how somebody else or other people have affected her in the realm of trauma, but then also how she has then acted out in ways that were unsafe. Another question, speaking of sober, there's a lot of pain here, a lot of pain. And it goes into confusing. There's like a confusion here too, of like where you're pointing your compass. Hi, Mark, the past 2 years have been a living nightmarish hell on earth experience for our family. I put my children and 30-year marriage through the ringer as I went through menopause, uncovered unknown childhood sexual abuse. I lost my beloved grandmother, who was also my guardian. I had an affair. I physically separated myself from my family for 18 months. I lost my professional license and job permanently. Yep, I blew it. I'm now in professional therapy 5 days a week on an outpatient basis, with the understanding that I can be put in inpatient if there's any hint that I feel suicidal. I'm enjoying therapy and embracing the inner work and uncovering who I really am under the layers of trauma. However, I'm realizing that I have returned to my marriage out of a sense of obligation, and that a huge weight of dread follows me and consumes me as I think about my future with my husband. He insists that we need to press on together to fix what is broken in me, and I've tried unsuccessfully to explain this inner hard work is what I must complete on my own. I find that this is a faulty understanding of healing. That when you're healing through childhood trauma or healing through any area of your life, you need to go be by yourself, heal through it, and then interact with people. Now, I don't want to go against any feedback that you or guidance you're being given, because you're 5 days a week. You're in very, very intense work. So that reveals to me how much the history of what was manifesting in your life, of what actions and things came out, and how much it affected you. So you're under a high amount of observation or supervision, rather. And so this statement you say, I'm returned to my marriage out of a sense of obligation, concerns me, because it looks like your husband has hung in there with you and is wanting to work on things, and you're dreading interacting with him. Now, there's a couple things. One is the lens of all the history and stuff. It's clouded everything so much. So making progress moving forward feels like, or the second part that I see here where you're like, I got to do this work. I got to do it by myself. I got to complete it on my own. It's like, yes, you got to do the work. However, it needs to be practiced in how you interact with loved ones. Mental health is emotional health, and emotional health is brought about through relational health. They all are working together. Super, super important. He feels hurt when I say this. Yeah, because you're excluding him from the healing process. He wants to grow with you together. I know I have to be patient and just keep plugging through this, but this is hard, Mark. I know there's no quick fix to this. I have to wait on God through this, and I am. Let's take that wait on God and let's put that aside. Don't use that for a while, because that's a cliche we use. I'm just waiting on. What does that mean? What does that mean? We throw that out there. You're in active day-to-day work, and yes, waiting on God is that, but that becomes cliche. So I recommend putting those kind of statements aside. The pain from the past keeps coming up between my husband and I. So I'm sure there's a lot there when there is an affair. That's going to be the big part. That's going to be very, very challenging to heal. That's going to take time. And you left the family for 18 months. If your healing and freedom journey will bring you into sobriety, meaning seeing it for what it is, and if you want to get sober, the best way, and when I use the word sober, it's way deeper than just not getting drunk, okay? And I have other teachings on that. But the quickest pathway to sobriety is the road of humility. Humility will take you there. Humility is a recognition of how your life has affected people in this context. Recognition of how your life has affected people, and a humbling under God's hand to go, I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to take the steps necessary for healing to happen, because while there has been a lot, God will work in any mess that we have to bring about redemption. But it's a journey. It's work, and humility is a big key for that. So that's some of my feedback, and I pray that pray that it'll help bring some illumination to what's needed. Now I want to get into some of the parental stuff that happens and just the fallout when you've had complex trauma and now you have children and the issues that come out with that. So I wanted to address one of those questions. Thank you, Mark, for your recent series on trauma. It really helped me connect the dots to why I struggle with OCD tendencies, perfectionism, performance, people-pleasing, peacekeeping, and depression. I never realized that I'd suffered severe neglect during childhood that rooted CPTSD and OCD into my life. My mom was very emotionally unstable. My dad was extremely passive workaholic. I ended up getting married right after high school, having 4 children before I turned 30. And after 18 years of marriage, my husband died. Looking back, now I can see that I've lived in survival mode. I made sure that everyone and everything was I think you mean to say taken care of. But I had no grid or capacity to meet my children's emotional and relational need. So my question is, how do I deal with knowing that my CPTSD issues contributed to my kids' CPTSD issues because I was emotionally unavailable and not able to fully connect relationally with each of them, especially now that they are adults and 3 of them have no contact with me because I don't support one of them becoming transgender. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different pathways going on here. The key thing I recommend for parents that they've had trauma, but you never really dealt with it. And many of you were raised by parents that had unaddressed trauma. Like they barely even talked about it, let alone worked through it. And you come to a point where you start becoming aware of your life and in your journey. That's one round. Then another round is realizing how that then affected your life. So you're in a phase right now where you're seeing how it impacted your children. And it impacted them in a number of ways. And now it's gotten to the point where there's estrangement. They're not talking to you. And there's value arguments, the whole transgender thing and all that's going on too. But here's the thing that I say to parents, just in general. One of the most powerful things that you can step into is the power of humility. I mentioned this earlier. God will deal with any problem in your life, but we're going to have a God problem when pride and stubbornness is in the mix. And one of the things that's very, very difficult with older generations, simply with the war that's going on with them and their kids, is not recognizing their emotional pain and things they went through, and B, not being willing to work on it. And so then that has a trickle-down effect to our children. We need to see this with sobriety, not with severe shame and condemnation, because under condemnation, there's no fruitfulness, there's no healing, there's no redemption that's taking place. In order to see redemption, I've got to gain that sober lens. It's very humbling to be able to have a conversation with your parent where they're able to recognize, yeah, I made some mistakes. I see it. I'm healing through it. I'm working on it. When things are brought up, you're able to talk about it. Now, this thread goes into a whole bunch of value systems that they've traded the truth for a lie. That's a whole topic in itself. But it is very, very powerful for a parent whose kids are grown up or wherever they are, or just a parent in general. 1, to work on your own life, to humbly work on your own life, and 2, to humbly respond when issues are brought up. Now, they're estranged from you. They're not wanting to talk. That, in a sense, it's like, I don't recommend you chasing them down and trying to. I would recommend first working on your own life, working on your own journey in a humble posture. So there's another question I want to tag into. It's kind of in the same subject. Mark, I listened to your CPTSD video and your trauma series. I had a dad who was all 6 of the 6 parents in complex trauma, and a mom who was 4 and 5. You have to go back to that and check that out if you want to know what she's talking about. I married a man who was emotionally abusive, so I divorced when my son and daughter were 5 and 7. I raised them alone. There was no family support as my parents were racist against my kids because they were half Nigerian. My daughter has ongoing relationship issues throughout adulthood and is unmarried and going to be 40 this year. She has also been lured into new age, new thought thinking, and I'm grieving the loss of her salvation. My son estranged from the entire family with his wife and 3 sons almost 10 years ago. A series of events led to it, but I received a list of grievances from my son that go back to his childhood that I believe are a result of my shame attacks, which led to anger and rage throughout the years of raising him and not knowing what my problems were. I'm of the perspective that I've seen this happen where adult children are going to their parents and going, listen, I need to talk to you about stuff that happened growing up. I'm very hesitant in people doing that with their parents because it very rarely goes well. And it can actually make things worse because most likely the parent is not very equipped. But even if you're the parent and your adult child comes to you and goes, hey, if you can find a way to have a reasonable, humble approach and recognize, okay, that hurt them, you can find a road of reasonability for healing to happen. But this is where a lot of breakdown in families happen, is the inability to have a reasonable interaction around something. Because oftentimes when it's brought up, the parent becomes dismissive. You go into your own shame attacks. You start dismissing, denying, pushing it back onto them, or making it all about yourself. Humility is the route in these kind of things. So anyway, you say, I'm a teacher for my career, so was very busy when I raised them. Both my kids were star athletes and straight A students, received scholarships from college. Okay, so you probably put a bit of a performance-driven burden on them. It's great they got straight A's and all that, but they probably, with your anger and the way that you parented, put a performance burden on them. Both have degrees and successful careers. I raised them in a Lutheran church, but the rest, well, you know the results. All this said, is there any hope my son will ever forgive me and be willing to go to some family therapy? I don't know that you need to make family therapy the goal. I think that being sober about how your life had affected them and someday being able to have an interaction where there can be, yeah, I recognize how this affected you. And I'm sorry. And not going into, yeah, but I was busy and I was trying to raise you and I had to divorce your father and this, right? While that's true factors, that's not going to help in the healing of humility, of recognizing, all right, your heart is hurt and I'm sorry about that. And I want to experience healing. It's making yourself available for it, not forcing the conversation. Or do you, and going back to what you wrote, or do you think he will just stay away for the longevity of life? I'm 62 years old and live out of ongoing grief. Yeah, it's understandable. And don't try to shortcut the grief. Let the grief happen. Let God's healing love, because you're needing healing. And let that healing have a work. So you have some of the new mindsets to bring to conversations, providing they come up in the future. I'm in counseling, but the grief never leaves. Well, you're in your 60s now, reflecting on decades and decades. We can't expect that, I'm just going to be okay and I'm just going to zippity-doo-dah and kind of just move on. It's like a death, but worse, because I don't know where he lives and I have no words in 9.5 years. I feel like I live for 20 more years. Should I be okay? I don't see him and his kids. I stay focused on the word and try to live with my focus on Jesus and his purpose. Is there any hope, or should I move to accept that he's gone, like truly dead? No, he's not dead. I suggest that you do your work on your heart and pray this. I'm not into formula prayers, but pray this kind of prayer. God, I know you're forgiving me for the ways that I parented. Heal my heart. And I pray for the healing of my son's heart. And I give him to you. Now, interestingly enough, you don't mention being worked in grief over your daughter. So, but I'm assuming both of them. Father, I give them to you. Would you open up an opportunity for there to be a healing conversation? And I'm just going to trust you as I continue. That's a process. While you're grieving, while you're working through, God, I give this to you. I see a lot of parents are like, I pray every day. I pray every day. I pray these like striving prayers. And many needed to go, God, your powerful prayers, God, I give him to you. I know I didn't do the right thing. I didn't do the best thing, but God, you are a God who can heal and restore, and submit yourself to that process. That's what I think. Now, I got a few more here. Do you have anything in the chat land, my love, or any thoughts?
Just somebody here that is asking you, Ethan, Mark, how do you not be stubborn and resistant when it seems trauma makes you stubbornly resistant to let your guard down, like you feel stuck?
Yeah, guard down to who? People, or guard down to the process? Guard down. Yeah, it's our protective mechanism. We're very stubborn in our patterns in life. We're very routine. We're very, for lack of a better word, programmable, in the sense of, like, we get in these patterns that we're just used to. And so healing journey often involves opening up to change and new things and new mindsets and applying them. But it involves letting people into our lives.
Yep.
In a professional setting, like a therapist or a counselor or something, but then also in day-to-day life, practicing vulnerability, and the resistance pitches a fit. So yes, it can be very, very stubborn in that kind of way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to recognize sometimes too, we're going through depression.
Yeah.
We have to realize, okay, this is maybe depression, and there's some things I need to put into place that can break you out of that.
Yep. Any other?
No, everyone's just chit-chatting it away.
Just chit-chatting away. All right. I got a question here about someone who's had sexual trauma and struggles with same-sex attraction, trying to figure out how to navigate that with dating. Hey, Mark, I've followed your channel for several years now. You've brought a lot of hope and encouragement to me. I was married for 16 years, divorced about 3 years ago. I have 2 sons. My question for you is that I have had a lot of what I am now understanding to be OCD about dating someone after divorce. Okay, got you on that. My big question is that I struggle with my confidence sexually due to some early childhood sexual trauma. And I've struggled with same-sex attraction, which many people with same-sex attraction have childhood trauma. I've had so much shame about this, and it isn't something I want to pursue, meaning the same-sex attraction, but I also struggle with sharing it with prospective females that I date. I feel they will not want to have anything to do with me if I share this with them. I haven't seen much on the subject of Christians who struggled with unwanted same-sex attraction confusion, and wanted to see if you have any advice for me. And you had some questions about the Healing and Freedom community, which in the Healing Freedom community is a place where I do weekly Zoom calls, address questions, and if I can, I have a little bit of a personal touch. So it has more access to courses. It's a place where I do a deeper investment. It's a subscription membership. But anyways, that's what he was asking about there. But so you're looking at dating, and you're like, how do I share this battleground that I have? Well, I think one is to be able to work through trauma and how it affected you in sexuality, because that's one of the things that it really can shatter for people. And we see it with there's so much sexual problems, dysfunction, strongholds that people have. The more that I work in people's lives, the more this area of sexuality has been damaged for so many, whether it's from childhood trauma or childhood neglect, which if you study childhood trauma and childhood neglect, they both can manifest the same thing, right? But sexual trauma is a whole world of its own. And one of the things it brings about is shame. So you say, I feel like a woman will have nothing to do with me if I share this battle with her. That is shame talking. In the right time and in the right context where you're growing in relationships. So it's not like, hey, this is a really nice date. I want to let you know about something here tonight on our first date. You have to, all relationship, when you dating, romance, moving to marriage, it's a journey of getting to know one another. And someone has to be trustworthy to be invited into your heart in the vulnerable areas. There were times, in Melissa and I's journey where in our dating, in our engagement, there'd be stages along the way where this is something I want to share about you. I share with you of things that have happened in my journey or things that I'm working on, things that I've been through, right? And we have to let the organic process happen and take place. Were there to be a point in time where something was shared and one of us was like, oh, I'm out of here, then okay, got your answer. You took a journey that's hurtful. It's hard, but it's not something that it seems like you're working at this. And it seems like you're trying to get some healing with this. And so, but shame's really going to cloud it. And I don't have a perfect answer of like A, B, C, other than work through the shame, find helpful resources as far as working through confusion over your sexuality, and take steps one at a time. And getting to know someone if you're walking in a dating process, and see what happens. Because this healing is not going to be something you're just going to snap your fingers. It's a journey, and you got to give yourself room for the journey. So let me know. Write me an email if that was helpful, and any other thoughts. Maybe I can provide you some more feedback for that. This question is about the trauma of losing a baby. It's heartbreaking. Hi, Mark. I hope you're doing well. I comment something about this on your live. I don't know if you saw it, but I had a loss about 5 years ago. I lost my baby due to complications with my pregnancy. Time has passed and I'm still healing and it still hurts. But I feel that God is bringing me into a new season. But the thing is, I'm trying not to look back like Lot's wife. Whoa, I got to put the brakes on that. I got to put the brakes on. You're comparing your journey to someone who is leaving a evil, wicked, the picture of absolute evil, wicked city that God was destroying. And he told them to leave and don't look back. And you're comparing that. That is not a comparison to what you're going through at all. So we're going to take Lot's wife and I'm going to say this like I said, I'm waiting on the Lord that I said earlier. We're going to take Lot's wife and we're just going to move that aside. That's what you're in, is a long season of grieving. And it's not abnormal for 5 years later for it still to hurt. I think we have a wrong perception on healing of trauma and loss. I think we really do. I think you have been told, not just you, I think you as an audience, you've been told a message that someday in this life, the horrific stuff that happened to you will just not even bother you at all. And you just won't feel a thing. You have been told an inaccurate expectation. That's not how the healing journey works. Someday you're just going to arrive in a place and you'll think about those horrific things. And you're just like, no, I'm just fine. Everything's just wonderful. And I have such a happy life. I don't have any difficult emotions. No, you can be experiencing a lot of healing and still have moments where the pain kicks in. We live in a modern society that says if you feel sad or you feel pain, something's wrong with you. And I think I want to push back on the messaging out there that any kind of trauma healing or any emotional healing is going to land you into a place where you just feel beautiful. No, life has joy and sadness. It has sorrow, it has rejoicing, has laughter, it has pain. The healing journey is actually learning how to navigate through them more effectively. But I don't want to convey a picture, somebody died in your life. You should be like, I'm just fine at some point. Don't even think about it anymore, right? I think we've created a faulty expectation in that. Anyway, you said, I don't want to look back like Lot's wife. That's not what this is about. And I know in Isaiah 43, it talks about God creating new things. And I'm believing he's doing a new thing in my life, but I'm still hurting from my baby loss. Yeah. I think you have this picture that God doing a new thing means just going to replace all your thoughts or replace with new, and then you just completely forget about it. You're showing signs of grieving that need to, so you're going to have to find in your journey what's helpful in grieving through the loss. This isn't about, I just got to step into the new and turn my back on the old. There is a point in time where in the grieving, you kind of go, okay, I need to take some steps forward. And what that looks like is it varies from person to person. Okay, I guess I'm saying, how do I go into the plan God has for me while still hurting? The plan God has for you is grieving. So that's what's in front of you. I'm working through the trauma, PTSD, and anxiety of it all. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's where it is. It's in the grieving. Thank you, and I hope this wasn't long. No, it actually wasn't. Have a good day. I also love the fact that you incorporate God and mental health into the same box. Well, I'm glad if I can be a help to your journey.
Babe, that was so good. Because I think we need to be reminded of that.
So like
all the time.
So like somebody who like the death of somebody in their life, right? Or a tragic accident. Mm-hmm. The idea that if you have maybe a flashback at some point and it bothers you and you feel some sad emotions, that means you're not healed. And I like just push back from that whole like healed, not healed anyways. It doesn't work like that. It's not this like, oh, you're done and close the door on that.
Right.
There's stuff that you look back and you might have spikes of anger here and there. Doesn't mean you haven't forgiven.
Yep.
You're an emotional being. You may feel like you've worked through something and then 10 years later, you start having an uptick of emotions about it. It's okay. Right. You keep working through it. Trauma healing is emotional healing, and it's learning new skills that you carry through life.
Right.
And so now the trauma doesn't own you in your decisions and where you go with your pain now.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. And we're all floundering in it. And I have to keep reminding people of this too, because you weren't given the tools. Really, you were meant to be given the tools to when you go through tough things, that your parents sit down with you and they help you navigate. Mm-hmm. So then in turn, we're even when you read emails from people who are like trying to find their calling, we all want to know that somehow we were special. Yeah. And it goes back to where we were not given that as a child.
Right.
We're all trying to get rid of all the pain and find out where I'm special. Wait a second. We need to go back.
Do you
did that make sense?
Yeah.
It always comes up in me.
Do you remember when I think it was when we were watching The Chosen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we were watching the scene of David. It was a flashback to David grieving the loss of his child.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know the scene you're talking about.
And they portrayed it really well because they were like, don't bother him.
He was laying on the ground.
He was just laying on the ground, just a mess.
Yep.
Okay. Now, he was not only grieving loss too. There's also this factor of his sin.
Yep.
And
that he was cut. Yep.
And the days of our lives kind of scenario,
right.
that unfolded with adultery and the other, Bathsheba's husband being killed, all this stuff, right? But you see like where it's just in the season of grief. Mm-hmm. And he's like, they come into the room and they're like, oh, he's on they're being a help where they can.
Yep.
And then there's a point in time after prolonged time.
Yeah.
Where he was like,
okay, I'm good.
No,
not good. No, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, but he was like, no, okay. It's time to now like
move,
go back to work.
Yes. It was very, very well portrayed. Yeah.
Yeah. And we lack that.
We do.
So
the allowance of it, that he just let himself be in that place and grieve and be connected to it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I personally feel that when the memory of that came up in future times, that he wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm good.
Right.
I think there's an ache. Mm-hmm. We're human beings. And it's frustrating when Christianity doesn't make room for the humanity of weeping, of weakness, of it still hurts a bit. And I'm still working at it.
Right.
There's stuff that I experienced 20 years ago that sometimes kicks up in my mind.
Right.
And it might make me fuss a bit, but I've practiced more things, that help me along the way and help me learn how to navigate it. Right. But it's not like, oh, I'm not healed. Something's wrong with me. I need to.
Right. Yeah. And all of us are reacquainting ourselves with what nurture is like, right?
Right,
Because God's not right. I mean, he's here with us, but he's not physically here. So we have to get that from other people, which can be difficult, but that's ultimately, the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
We're trying to connect with all of those things in a spiritual realm, but also have that on an earthly realm. Well, now we're all adults and we're settled a lot in our ways.
That's right.
But we don't know what a lot of that is.
Yep.
Our spouses have their issues. Our kids are going through stuff. We're trying to tap into that, but it's available. And we need to sometimes just do that, engage and enter the pain, look at it, grieve through it, find people you can connect to that can help you heal.
Yep.
Connect to God. Find those moments. Go, where we say, go where the grace is.
Yep.
Spend time where the grace is.
Yep.
Find those moments where you can find peace. And I go back to the story that you've told from when we first got married, of where you just took a second. A second turned into 10. And I've learned from you in that, of where then you find that and your body starts to quiet. And then you go, oh, okay, I've settled into this area a little bit more.
Yeah.
So then when the pain comes up, it's not that it doesn't hurt, like you're saying, but you now have tools and you have things that can fill that we should have been given. And I know we do a lot, or I do anyway, of like, okay, your parents didn't give you that. They didn't give, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And we need to look at that. We were not equipped.
Yep. Right on.
We were not.
Right on. Yeah. And I think we need more pictures of what grieving, what it looks like. Because all trauma leads to grieving. It leads to grieving of loss, grieving through difficult emotions, letting that work its way through, and doing that with kindness and grace. Because in the kindness is where we don't go, it's 10 years and it still bothers me. Okay. Right? You're still on your journey.
Right.
Right? But so-and-so, they got this and they got over it quicker.
Did they?
I don't know.
Did they? I don't, and we don't like that. Get over it. No.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to, we need to remember what our references were. When you went through tough things, what were you told? So what was your mode of operating? Did you just then shut down if someone was screaming at you, what's wrong with you, or ignored?
Yep.
We all have our things that we've built up of how we deal with everything that we have to unwind. We have to confront that in loving ways to ourselves.
Yep.
Again, be kind to yourself in all this.
Right. Right on.
And if you have to take a break from your parents, you do it.
Any other super chats going on? I have a couple that I could get to, but
I think I have one from Miss B.
Miss B.
Okay. This is an interesting question. My ex-sister-in-law has reached out and said that she would allow me to see her niece in spite of my brother still not speaking with me. I miss my niece so much. Is it wrong for me to go through her? Now, let's remember, the brother and the wife are not married.
It's tricky.
And she is not speaking to her brother.
That's tricky.
Or he's not speaking to her.
It's tricky, but he's still the dad.
But they're not speaking. But that is a tough one, right?
Yeah, it is
because
tough.
if they're divorced,
right,
and she has no relationship with her brother, but she still wants to have a relationship with the niece, and the ex-sister-in-law says yes, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't think there's a perfect answer. I don't have a perfect answer to that. She has communication with her son's ex, right?
No, her brother. Her brother's ex-wife. So it's her niece.
Brother's ex-wife. She doesn't talk to her brother.
No.
So that's not going. Well, that would be ideal if there was open communication there.
Right, but there's not.
But the ex-wife's willing to talk.
Willing to bring the niece around.
If she's willing, yeah. It's messy. It's messy.
It is. It's not clear-cut, honey. Miss B, it's not clear-cut. If there's any way to just let your brother know, listen.
Yeah. Hey, I know you're not talking to me.
But I'd like to see your kid.
But your ex has been friendly with me, and it'd be nice.
She's letting me see your daughter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Signed, Miss B.
Tell him that we approve of you. We don't even know you. But we think that you're cute and you're probably a great person. No,
Yeah.
oh God.
All right, let me do a couple more, then we'll wind it down. We went longer today, and that's
Oh
fine.
my goodness,
because,
I even realized what time it was.
yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. We're good. My heart goes out to this one, and I would like to address it. Thank you for helping people in this way. Bless you. I'm 24 years old. I live in Croatia. I've watched almost all your videos on YouTube that are about guilt, but the guilt I have is so specific. Well, it usually is. But anyway, you write, my brother, who was only 17 years old, committed suicide in 2021. I feel responsible for it. My past is tormenting me because I did a lot of wrong things. Well, the interesting thing is that if you have a loved one that dies in that way, or even let me go back to like military and soldiers that go out to war, and one of their brothers in battle dies, one of the things of trauma that they bring back is a sense of guilt of why'd that person live and why'd that person die and why am I still alive? So they can actually feel bad for living. So it creates the traumatic twist of how it process. I'm just stating that it's such a common traumatic emotion of a sense of responsibility, a sense of like guilt that will hit you. My past is tormenting me because I did a lot of wrong things, a lot of bad decisions. I got into the wrong company, took drugs, cut myself with a razor as a teenager. And with that, I definitely brought bad energy home that may have affected my little brother. Now, I'm not going to try to just like correct your statements or just try to make them better. But it sounds to me both you and your brother were growing up with pain because of what happened to him, and then you in your own journey with where you went and where you were going. The wrong company, drugs, self-harm, and all that stuff. That is somebody who is desperately, desperately looking for love and is not finding it. And with that, I definitely brought bad energy home that have affected my little brother. I have hurt my family. I can't get rid of the guilt that consumes me. I could have been a better sister and been there for him and not always be drawn into myself and my problems. Does God really forgive everyone? Yes, but I don't think you're asking the question you need to ask, and that's how do you begin healing? Because what you're manifesting is what we've been talking about, the need to grieve. Because there's a sense of loss that when we lose someone, we lose the sense of controlling that. It's no longer here, and I can't bring the person back. And there's a sense of false blame hitting you, but it's part of the grieving. I think anyone who has a loss of a loved one, no matter how good or how bad their relationship was, that loss can bring about a sense of what could I have done differently? And we replay it back. And that's normal, but it doesn't bring about healing. What you're needing is some encouragement, some help, and some resources on grieving through, on allowing your emotions to grieve the loss without the judgment. Because mercy's needed in this. And the Bible says mercy triumphs over judgment. If you go quick to judge, then you're just going to condemn yourself. You stay in a cycle with no grieving and no healing. What you're needing in the healing process is let mercy have a work that brings the kindness of God in the midst of this messy, messy pain. So you say, I love God, I want to be close to him, but I feel like I don't deserve his love. And that's bringing out your lens of what it means to get rooted in love. And I would encourage the book, God Loves Me and I Love Myself. I think that would be a great place to go with some of the things you're working through. And also some of the stuff I've been talking about in trauma on grief. I have one here. This is a complicated subject, but I'll do my best to give some feedback. It's about dissociative identity disorder. It's called DID. I have a friend who displays a number of symptoms associated with dissociative identity disorder, such as a number of personalities that go by different names and ages, as well as the memory loss characteristic of this kind of disorder. She identifies as a Christian and has had progressively noteworthy symptoms as time goes on. You mean increasing, like the splitting out kind of symptoms? My question centers around how this can relate to Christianity and the perception that DID or similar disorders are reflective of demonic possession rather than being a mental health disorder. But I would like to know what your thoughts of it are. I talk about this a little bit in the last inner healing video I did, and I've talked about dissociation. So I don't like the setup. Is this demonic or is this mental health? We do a lot of that. A lot of questions people send me. It's like they want to take something and put it in a box. Modern culture is very big on this. We see something, we put one little thing on it. Oh, it's because of that. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of that. We don't make room for the complexity. Yeah, we're in a spiritual warfare. Yes, there is demonics. We're also human beings working through emotions and grief. That's not necessarily a demon to cast out. There's heartache, there's loss, there's pain. People with DID, it's on the extreme end of the spectrum of dissociation, right? You can have mild dissociation, checking out kind of symptoms, things. And then DID is the extreme one. It used to be called MPD, multiple personality disorder, and this goes back to trauma, severe trauma, often abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, very, very intense abuse. So there are deliverance perspectives that look at it as a demon, do deliverance ministry and all that. I've seen it. I've known them. I've met people with DID. My fundamental premise with DID starts with this. God has given us a single identity in Christ. Okay, so that's the starting place. Although this is a process, this is a healing journey. The people that I've seen, witnessed, and interviewed that got freedom, while they may have gone through deliverance protocol and things like this, and what really helped that I saw, I'm just giving you my feedback of what I observed and what I noticed. Number one is they were willing to do some healing work, and they were willing to find a way to go, okay, I got to find a way to find my identity and be able to walk in that, because there's a big fear too of letting go of these things that these patterns that kick in. Number two is they were connected with somebody or groups of people that continually loved on them. I knew some people that they even stayed, in the same place with the people that were helping them. They just lived together, right? And they found great help and freedom out of that. Whether the specific methodology or the specific technique was helpful, we could debate and argue over it. There's mental health approaches of like integration, what that looks like and so forth. There's the deliverance mindset. We got to get this thing out. I think that we spend so much time arguing and debating that we don't get back to what people need is they need to be grounded in the love of God and the safety of that. And in that, take steps of faith for the healing process, because DID is a response to severe trauma. You are not safe. And so it creates a programmed response to shift to all these things to feel safe. At some point, there's a recognition with all trauma that safety is not found in all these faulty coping mechanisms. It's easier said than done. It's not found here. It's found in taking a step of facing the pain, facing these areas with God's renewal and learning to walk with people through that. So anyways, I hope that's a help to your journey. But I notice with that kind of subject, it's a lot of arguing and debating going back. And I'd rather why don't we just help people? Why don't we just help love on them? But I found in that area, there was one lady, and I told the story about it when I was teaching a seminar. She would be shifting while I was talking. She was going in and out and stuff like that. And all I was doing was teaching about our identity in Christ. We have this is who you are. We have I don't think I wasn't even addressing her issue. I was talking about this is who you are. And so she was arguing with me, and it started to get dicey. And I realized that you can't argue with this. This is God's word, that this is who you are, one identity. However, God meets us in his love to lead us on a healing journey. And I can know you have significant trauma and safety issues. And I'm representing a reference that of I'm not safe, because I'm proposing some new thoughts here that I believe lead to greater healing. So Anyway, I pray that's a blessing to your life, into your journey. I have a few others, but it's like kind of stuff I've addressed already.
Because listen,
and
my burn is not burning. I've got some aloe. We're good. So if you want to answer any more, if not, we're good.
Well, I pray this was helpful. I wanted to take some extended time to cover this. Also, give you the 1 John talk today, and pray that it's helpful for everyone who's.
It was great, babe.
Yeah, it was great. And hopefully that burn will start to heal.
I know. It's always something. It's seriously always something.
You got the burn, Levi, with his bleeding,
my gosh.
bleeding claw. And
his poor dew claw. But listen, it's getting a little blister, but the aloe helped to calm it down. So we are getting there.
y'all do me a favor and click that like button and subscribe. That would help out a whole lot. And you can support these broadcasts by going to markdesus.com, click on the donate button. It's greatly appreciated. Get a copy of The Myth of the Perfect One, and keep an eye out, because this week I'm going to send out before we take a break, I'm going to be sending out a bunch of videos. So check it out, and look forward to seeing you all next Sunday, as well as many of the resources I'm going to be putting out this week. So, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, this is your brother from another mother
And your sister from another mister
saying we'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. In the meantime,
we out.